Buongiorno beautiful people, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about 8 must-do exercises to grow your booty. Whether you are training at the gym, you have access to certain machines, so barbells, dumbbells, or you train at home, or you maybe want to just train with a band. Whatever it is, I am going to give you 8 must-do exercises and their respective variations or adjustment, and as well I'm going to suggest some sort of combos, how to do some reps, some sort of techniques, and as well as the form. So I really hope you like it. If you do, then please don't forget to give a like and subscribe to my channel. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So the first must-do exercise is of course some hip thrusts. They are amazing to grow your booty, to target those glutes, and to ensure that you maximize your muscle hypertrophy. So they're really great. In terms of form, I first like to take a bench, a chair, a sofa, whatever I have available that is at the same height, if not slightly less higher than your knee, which ensures that all the weight, all the traction is done using your glutes as opposed to your back or your knees. As well, it allows you to have a straighter back throughout and avoid back arching, and as well it allows you to progressively overload your weights without risking some injuries. Now, I also really like to tuck my chin in and always look forward, because again that avoids arching your back and have a bad form. Now, in terms of equipment, of course you can use the typical barbell, or as well you can take a dumbbell and put it at the center of your stomach, ensuring that any sort of padding, it doesn't hurt your hips or anything. As well, what I like to do is take some kettlebells or some plates, or otherwise you can always add a band in addition to, or to substitute the weight, and do exactly the same movement with a even greater resistance upon the glute muscle, because when you add a resistance band, you are basically trying to keep your legs open in that angle, and that it creates a traction upon your muscles. In terms of reps, I like to do some normal reps, but my favorite is to add a pause at the top. As well, if you're trying to progressive overload and advance with your weight, what I'd suggest is when you have a moderate to high weight, to do some dead stops. So basically you go all the way down, you let the weight drop upon the floor, and then you pick it up all the way up. So it essentially resets your position as opposed to standing over mid-air. As well, I really like to do some combos. So for example, you could start with some normal reps, around 10, then add a pause at the top for around 5 to 10 seconds, and then add some pulses straight after that. So doing this sort of combos increases the time and the tension of the muscle. It maximizes how much work you're putting your muscle through for each set, and it will also more efficiently give the results that you're looking for. In terms of variations, if you're working with a dumbbell or a barbell, what you can do is assume a B stand, where you have both feet on the floor, but all the weight and all the work is transitioned to one leg at a time. So sort of the non-working leg more works for balance. And in this case, make sure again to put your weight on your heel and move upwards, just using that side of your glutes. Otherwise, if you are comfortable with your balance, what you can do is literally lift the non-working leg up and keep it that way throughout the whole set. So you will only use obviously the leg on the floor, and then you will switch to the other side. Another must-do exercise to grow your glutes are glute bridges. Now, they're very similar to hip thrusts, except that the range of motion is way shorter because you are starting literally from the floor. And this really puts an emphasis on the glutes and the hamstrings, and slowly decreases the work that your quads might be doing. Similar to the hip thrust, I recommend to keep your back always straight, your chin tucked in, looking forward, and as well I would personally really tighten up my lats so that it gives the upper back more of a solid structure that you can work with. Again, you can use barbells, you can use dumbbells, or you can do a body weight. You can always add a resistance band around your knees to increase the time and the tension. And similar to the hip thrust, what you could do is normal reps. You could add a pause at the top between reps, or you can do some combo variation with pulses, pauses, and slow reps. In terms of variations, what I would personally suggest is if you want a sort of still greater range of motion but keep it the emphasis upon the glutes, I would suggest that you take a chair or a bench and you lift your feet up, and that will increase the resistance and how hard it is to do the exercise. However, me personally, if I am to do this sort of variations, I really like to keep it on a lighter weight, so sort of like dumbbells or a kettlebell or even body weight, so that I ensure that I am not too concerned about my balance but rather upon the movement itself. And of course, even with this exercise, you can switch to a unilateral movement where you do one leg at a time and then you switch to the other. The third must-do exercise to grow your booty are obviously squats, but particularly sumo squats. They are amazing to not only strengthen your core and work your body overall because it is a compound movement, but it's great for the glutes as soon as you achieve a wider stance. Your toes are pointing outwards, you transfer all your body weight or sort of all the starting point of the exercise upon your heel, and when you go on the way up, you really think about lifting yourself by using your glutes as opposed to your quads. Now, is this not necessary to squeeze at the top? The time and the tension is what matters for muscle hypertrophy, so to grow your booty. So basically what I recommend is, instead of doing just clean reps, I would do half a rep and then go into a full rep, and that will increase the time and the tension of the glute muscle in particular and in isolation, and then that will maximize your results. So basically this is because when you go all the way to the top, the glute muscles actually are not contracted but rather more relaxed, and so adding a squeeze at the top doesn't necessarily mean that you're being more effective. In terms of equipment, of course, you can use a barbell, you can use some dumbbells if you put them in front of you, or because it's a sumo stance, you can actually use a dumbbell in front of you or a kettlebell, and of course you can use a band and do a body weight as well. In terms of reps, I really like to do, as I said, a half a rep with a full rep, or otherwise I really like to do a pause at the bottom, which really increases the time and the tension of the glute muscles, and of course a combo between half reps, pause reps, or pulses at the bottom. My fourth favorite exercise to target the booty are split squats. Now, in terms of form, what I like is when I do the step backwards to do it slightly more open than an actual line behind me, and this is just because it positions the hips in a way that I can transfer all the force and I can transfer all the initiation of the movement from the leg in the front. I will try my best to keep my spine straight and look forward. However, I really emphasize putting my weight upon the heel of the front leg because it will really target my glutes and of course my hamstrings. Of course, you can use a barbell in this case, but as well some dumbbells either side, which it doesn't affect much the balance. In terms of reps, what I like is to do again a half a rep at the bottom and then a complete rep straight after that, which again increases the time and the tension. Otherwise, I like to do some pauses at the bottom. And of course, you can do some Romanian or some Bulgarian split squats using a bench behind you. I will be really mindful of the balance and how much weight I'm putting the dumbbells on or the barbell, because again, it is about the movement rather than trying defeating gravity and moving left and forward. So I will be more conservative about how much weight I use and rather do high reps and focus upon using my glute. As well, I found that when I put myself slightly looking forward and rather than doing a straight line down, I sort of go diagonally with my body, that really helps using just the hamstrings and the glutes as opposed to using too much of my quads. For the fifth exercise, which is very similar to split squat, are lunges, whether they are forward or backwards. Again, I will be very conservative with the amount of weights I use because it's all about the movement as opposed to just lifting a lot and risk some injuries or, use the quads too much as opposed to really targeting the glutes. So in terms of form, my tips are to again keep my back straight, try to avoid inarching as much as possible, keep the weight and all the force upon the heel of the front leg, and ensure to have a strong core, which again really helps in terms of balance. And once again, you can use some barbells, dumbbells, or you can of course do some bodyweight lunges. And one of my favorite variations of lunges are curtsy lunges, which really target the side of the glutes and really ensure sort of that hourglass figure, and they are really good to have a more complete targeting of the glute muscles. My 6th must-do glute exercise are hip abductions. Now this of course could be on a hip abduction machine, or using the cable machine, or using some bands. Everything is fine as soon as you keep your back straight and neutral. You drive the movement using the side of your leg as opposed to driving the movement from your knee. In terms of reps, besides the normal types of hip abduction, what I really like is to add pulses on the way up, and of course pauses, and as well as doing a combo. Now if you are in the hip abduction machine, what I really like is to do 10 or 15 reps sort of leaning forward, still ensuring that my back is nice and straight and neutral, and then 10 to 15 reps when you lean against the seat, and then again ensuring that your back is nice and straight and neutral. For variations, of course, besides the hip abduction machine, what I really like is to side squat with a resistance band upon my knees, which is a really good way to do some hip abduction and as well to warm up. Now I also really like to stay on the squatting position and staying down, and then do some hip abduction using a resistance band. Otherwise, what you could do is to go on the floor and do some unilateral abductions, one leg at a time on the side. My 7th must-do glute exercise are some kickbacks. Again, these are usually done on the cable machine, and they're really effective to target the glutes. So in terms of form, my only tips would be to lean slightly forward, just so slightly, so that the balance and your weight is on the leg at the bottom, and then as well to keep your back straight and neutral, so avoiding any arching when you kick backwards. Reps, I would say to do it as normal as possible. You could add a pause once you have kicked, and then slowly retreat back to the initial position. Otherwise, some variation could be to take some resistance band and go on the floor and do some kickbacks that way, or you can also take a long resistance band and put it around the other leg, which also increases the resistance. My 8th and final exercise that is a must-do to grow your glutes are some hyperextensions. They're really good to again get the movement and really use the gluteus maximus. Now you can do them on the cable machine, which really consists of just putting the cable at the bottom and get the rope extension, and then just do some hip thrusts, maintaining your back straight and neutral, your shoulders as back as possible, and maintaining that position throughout the extension. Otherwise, if you don't have some cable machines available and your gym provides a 45-degree hyperextension machine, then I would definitely use that, whilst ensuring that your back is rounded when you do the exercise, because if you keep your back straight, then you're working a little bit more your lower back as opposed to the glutes. However, if you arch your back, and you can either hold a dumbbell or doing some bodyweight ones, but if you really arch your back, that really means that all the movement on the way up is only done because you're squeezing your glutes forward. So it's sort of thinking that you're pushing your hip forward and your back is going up just as a result of that. However, if neither the cable or the 45-degree hyperextension machine is available, you can definitely do it using some resistance band. So it's just a matter of hooking it up to something stable and then entering the long resistance band and go from there. So it's a really great exercise that really isolate the movement of the glutes. Of course, only making sure that you don't strain your lower back and you keep your spine as neutral as possible. So that's it. These are my 8 must-do exercises with some form tips, some variation in terms of reps, and as well in terms of machine or equipment that you could use. I really hope it was useful, and I really hope you liked it. If you did, then please don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hopefully I will see you next time. Ciao! I don't fit into your box, beauty queens without no flaws. You can do better, I dare you to be wilder. I don't fit into your box, beauty queens without no flaws.